All right, so here we go. Tonight's video, or today's video, is going to focus on two-step equations. So we're all familiar with one-step equations. We practiced it a little bit in class today. You did it last year, so now we're just going to be adding an extra step. So when they say two-step equations, just like I said, so a two-step equation, it takes two, ding, 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 two-step operations to reach the solution. So many of the processes are going to be the same as what we did before. We're just going to add in an extra step. It's going to just take, instead of one step to reach the solution, it's going to take two. So the majority of this is going to be some examples. We're going to look at a bunch of different type of examples that involve two-step equation. And we're going to look at all the different varieties. There's definitely different varieties of them, and I'll try to do an example of at least one of each variety so that you've seen it before. So we're going to start off easy. So let's say we have number 1. You have negative 7x plus 8 equals 14. All right, so our first step, right, we want to isolate the x. So we're going to start kind of farther away from the x and get closer to it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to move this 8. And of course, we have to do the opposite operation. So if we have, remember, like I said, this sign belongs to that number. So if we have a positive 8 here, we're going to do the opposite of the positive is to subtract. And we got to do it on both sides. Now, I know that some teachers, or some of you might do a bar down here. That's fine. If you want to put that there, that doesn't matter to me. So this positive 8 and negative 8 cancel out. We're left with negative 7x equals, and then we have 14 minus 8 is 6. All right? So move it down a little bit for you guys. So that's one step, and now we're back to just a one-step equation. And we know we're multiplying technically here our 7 and our x, or negative 7 actually. So the opposite operation from multiply is to divide. So we're going to divide both sides by 7. Remember, every time you got to do one side. What you do to one side, you got to do to the other. So these two cancel out. I'm left with x. And then over here, we have a negative 6 sevenths. Negative 6 sevenths. And that's where I want you to leave it. Unless this equation started with decimals or you're talking about money, it needs to stay as a, sorry, not a, yeah, unless it starts with a decimal, I don't want to see a decimal. In algebra, the majority of the time, you are going to be leaving your answers in All right, so sorry, I had a minor interruption. Okay, so like I was saying, we just leave it as a fraction. So x equals negative 6 sevenths. We're done. That's what I want to see. Moving forward, let's look at another example. So number 2, excuse me, if we have x divided by a negative 2 plus 16 equals 31. The first thing we're going to do, again, is we're going to start kind of farther away from the x, and we're going to get closer to it. So the first thing we're going to do is with this 16, and again, this is a negative 16, so we're going to do the opposite, is to add 16, and we're going to add 16 to both sides. So this x over 2 comes down, x over a negative 2, and that's equal to, we have 31 plus 16, which is equal to 47. Now, we talked about this today. This x is being divided by that negative 2. So we have to do the opposite of division, and that's multiplication. So we're going to come in here, and we're going to multiply both sides by a negative 2. Multiplying this side by a negative 2 is going to cancel those out, and you're left with x. And then 47 times a negative 2 is going to be a negative 94. So your solution is x is equal to negative 94. Got to be careful with those. So a lot of times you'll see this looking like instead of x over -2, this is the same as 1/2 x. Okay, those are the same thing, so you got to look out for those. Both of these instances, you're going to multiply by the 2. That negative kind of gets crazy. As long as you stick to either the top or the bottom, you're going to be, and you're consistent, it should all work out for you. All right, number 3. We have 12x minus 20x equals 128. For this one, you have got to simplify first. You always want to make sure you're simplifying your expression, or in this case, it's an equation, before you're solving it. So if I have a positive 12x and a negative 20x, I have negative 8x equals 128. Okay, that was the first step. Now we're back to a one-step equation. We have a negative 8 times x. So we know that we have to, in that case, divide. We're going to divide both sides by a negative 8. These two negative 8s cancel. We're left with x. And 128 divided by a negative 8 is going to be a negative 16. So our answer, or our solution to that problem, is negative 16. All right, got a couple more examples to go through with you. Again, we'll do a bunch of these in class when I meet with you also. Leave that one up there just in case you needed it for a minute. All right, number 4. Okay, well, there's a couple different ways, and we saw something similar to this today when we did it in class. So the first step is always going to be the same. I want to get rid of what's farthest away from x. So I'm going to get rid of this little 3 over here. So of course this is a positive 3. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. A positive 3 and a negative 3 cancels. I'm left with negative 3/4 x equals a negative 6, and a negative 3 is going to give me a negative 9. Now, this is where you can kind of go two separate ways, and I'm going to write the two ways, and whichever you choose is fine. I know that some of you thought the one way looked a little bit difficult, but it is my job to show you all the options. So we could multiply it by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of negative 3/4 is going to be negative 4/3. And then we would have to multiply this side by negative 4/3 also. Okay? In this case, these will cancel out. I should have did it on one side. Oh, well, I'll just do the other example after. These will cancel out, and I'm left with x equals negative 9 times negative 4/3. Now, negative 4, this is x equals, a negative times a negative is a positive. 9 times 4/3 is actually going to be 12. You can put that in your calculator, or you can do 9 times 4, and then is 36, and divide that by 3, it's 12, right? Because this 9 is technically over 1. 9 times 4 divided by 1 times 3, which is 3. All right, the other way to do it, kind of go like this, is if we have negative 3/4 x equals negative 9. All right, we have a division problem. We have negative 3 divided by 4. We're going to multiply both sides by 4, by the denominator. Now we have negative 3x, and that is equal, to 36. Okay. And it's a negative 36. I'm sorry, we have a negative 9 times 4, and that is a negative 36. Now you're just left with a one-step equation. We have multiplication, so we're going to divide. Divide both sides by 3, and we get x, a negative 3. I'm sorry, divide both sides by a negative 3. A negative times a negative is a positive. 36 divided by 3 is 12. So you arrive at the same answer. A lot of people might think this side is a little bit easier. I think that side is easier personally, but at least I gave you the option. And what I'm going to say is once you choose Once you choose one of those two options, stick with it. There's no point in going back and forth. Choose which one you like better and stick with that option. All right, a couple more examples, 2 more examples, and we're done. It's going to be a short video for you guys. All right, so here we go. Let's look at, I think I'm on number 6, h minus 6 divided by 7, and that being equal to a negative 10. So yeah, we've seen something similar to this, but I just want to make a statement. So what we're going to do here is the same process. We're going to multiply both sides by the denominator first. Okay, so this 7 and this 7 cancel, and we're left with h minus 6. And that is going to be equal to a negative 70, right? Negative 10 times 7 is a negative 70. Well, now, simple one-step equation. Add 6 to both sides. We're doing the opposite of negative 6 is to add 6. These cancel, and we're left with h equals negative 64. H equals negative 64. All right, our last example is going to add just a different twist to the same thing. So let's say that we have where we have to translate, then solve. So let's say we have, I think I'm on 7, the quotient of a number and negative 2 is added to, nope, hold on, let me go back. Of a number, the quotient of a number and negative 2 added to negative 8 yields 10. Okay, and now these are all numbers that were, or these are all phrases and words that we worked with when we did the verbal expressions. So we should be able to create an equation and then solve it. So the quotient, right? The quotient of a number and x, so that is, quotient means to divide. So a number, we're going to call that x, and negative 2. So that quotient added to, so we're going to add it to negative 8. I'm going to just put that in parentheses. And it yields, right? To yields means to be equal to 10. All right, well, this kind of looks familiar to something we've seen before. First, let's eliminate these double signs. X divided by negative 2. A positive and negative gives us a negative. 8 equals 10. Well, now this looks very familiar to something we've done before. First, we're going to get rid of this 8. I'm going to add 8 to both sides. That leaves me with x divided by negative 2. These 8's cancel, equals 18. Now we have to multiply. We're going to multiply by negative 2 on this side, and we're going to multiply by negative 2 on this side. You are left with these two cancels. X equals a negative 36. So negative 36 would be our answer. So being able to not only do the multi-step, but use other things that we've learned, like verbal expressions, to then create expressions to then solve. All right, well, we'll be doing a lot more of this in class. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon.